Please be seated. Good morning, everyone. At this time, we're going to commence with the opening statements. Remember, as I said to you yesterday, the opening statement gives the attorneys a chance to tell you what evidence they believe will be presented during the trial, but what they say is not evidence, and you should not consider it as such. State, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. Counsel, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want to thank you again for your time and attention over the past 2 days. It does seem like 2 years for the jury selection process, and while it's not glamorized in movies or television, it is one of the most important parts of the trial. So I thank you again for your participation. My name is Christine Bradley, who along with Antonio Johnson, we represent the state of Florida in the case versus Armando Baptista. Ladies and gentlemen, on April 25th of 2014 was an unremarkable Friday night. People went to work, people made plans with friends, people made plans for the future. But on that day, Fakhreddin Mohammed Knight met a bloody and violent end. And that happened at the hands of 2 individuals. The defendant, Armando Baptista, as well as Demetrius Elder. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear about Demetrius Elder. But that proceedings and anything with regards to him is for another jury. That is not for your consideration. You will get the information so that you have a full picture of what happened. On April 25th, in 2014, Mohammed, as everybody called him, got into his girlfriend's car, Wendy Gimbolas, in Hallandale. They drove to a gas station, they got gas, and they wound up out west in Miramar. That is where Corey McMath lives. Corey is a lifelong friend of Mohammed, and it's right before Corey's birthday. At this point, the next hour goes from Mohammed being at a friend's pre-birthday celebration to a hospital ward. 60 minutes. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're going to be putting 60 minutes and what happened then. You're going to hear that there was no connection between Armando Baptista and Demetrius Elder and Mohammed Knight. They didn't know each other. They'd never met before. You're going to hear that at the party, gathering, block party, you're going to hear it described in a bunch of different ways. There was no tension, there was no fight, there was no argument. You're going to hear that Wendy Gimbolas wanted to go see her mother, who had just driven in from Alabama. She was getting ready to go on a cruise. And she wanted to introduce her new boyfriend, Mohammed, to her mother. So she was under the impression they're only staying at Corey's house 5-10 minutes tops. You're going to hear that got in that car, and they drove away. And they come to a stop sign. And ladies and gentlemen, for this, it's useful to get an idea of the area we're talking about. This occurred in Miramar, Broward County, Florida. The intersection of Miramar Parkway, which runs east-west, and Terra Road, which runs north-south. Corey McMath lives at this house right here in the corner, 8516 Claridge Drive. You are going to hear that Wendy, when they came, parked over here. There's a little yield sign right here on the corner. And she never gets out of the car during the party. Mohammed goes up, socializes with some people, even speaks to Mr. Baptista. No issues, no concern. Mr. Knight gets back in the car, Mohammed, with Wendy, and they go to drive away. They come to the stop sign here at Terra Road in Miramar Parkway. There's a car parked in front of them. It's a gold Impala. Wendy describes the circular brake lights. You'll see photos of this car. And it's waiting. And it's waiting, and it's waiting. It's approximately 9:45 to 9:50 at night. At this point, Mr. Knight gets out of the car, Mohammed. Taps on the horn, the car doesn't go. He gets out and he walks up towards the first car. Wendy says he says something like Walt, which you'll hear about who Walt is in just a moment. Wendy watches this all go down. She's in her car, in the driver's seat with the headlights on. She sees her boyfriend get out of the car, walk up to the car in front, and stop about even with the gas cap. At that point, Armando Baptista, the defendant in this case, gets out of the car, opens the passenger door, stands up against the passenger door, and has a conversation with Muhammad. You're going to hear that Muhammad, when Wendy first picked him up, had a red Solo cup in his hand. And he held it in his right hand and he was carrying on a conversation with Mr. Baptista. Wendy can't tell you exactly what that conversation was if she was inside the car. But she can tell you about the body language and the demeanor of both of those individuals. The next thing that happens is she sees Muhammad take the cup from his right hand, switch it to his left, walk up and put his hand out for a handshake. At that point, she sees blood flying because Armando Baptista, with a knife in his hand, strikes Muhammad Knight. The altercation continues. Wendy didn't know there was a knife at this point. She sees her boyfriend all of a sudden attacked for no reason by Mr. Baptista. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the evidence will show that Mr. Muhammad Knight had 8 different sharp force injuries, meaning from a knife or another sharp object. You're going to hear that some of those wounds pierced his heart, his lungs. That the manner of death was that he bled to death, loss of blood from those injuries. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Sigmund Freud said once upon a time that we assume a special attitude towards the deceased.
Objection, argument.
Objection, argument. It's not an argument, Your Honor.
It is, and it's sustained. Continue.
The state is not going to say that Mr. Knight, the victim, was a choir boy that went to church twice on Sundays. You're going to hear he was drinking. You're going to hear he had a bag of weed in his back pocket. You're going to hear that he had alpha PVP, flocka, in his system. You're going to hear that he had cocaine in his system. We're not hiding that. Our job is to put all of the evidence before you, the jury, and for you to determine what pieces of the puzzle go together. We have to put forth all the evidence that we have in this case that is reliable. So you're here to decide between 9:30 and 9:50 if the state has proven the elements of manslaughter. There's only 2. 1, the victim is deceased, and 2, Armando Baptista, the defendant in this case, intentionally committed an act or acts that caused the death of the victim. We don't have to prove why. We don't have a motive. You're not going to hear that as something the state has to prove. We don't have to prove that he intended to do this, that he intended to cause the death of this individual. We have to show that he committed an intentional act that caused the death of this individual that was not excusable or justifiable. Our job, again, is to slowly build the case piece by piece and give you the evidence. This is the point where we tell you what the evidence will be. At the end is when we get to make that aha, connecting the dots moment. So to give you an idea of the other evidence that you'll have in the testimony in this, I'm going to tell you about the witnesses. For that, because there are so many individuals, so in the center, we have Mr. Knight, Muhammad, or Mo, as everybody calls him. This is his girlfriend, Wendy. We then have Major Selder, down at the bottom, that's the other individual that was involved in this altercation. He was the driver of the car that Mr. Baptista was the passenger in. You're going to hear Walter Stanley. Now, Walter Stanley and Mr. Baptista had a previous argument. They had gotten past it, moved after it, water under the bridge. Marlon Williams is the brother-in-law of Armando Baptista. His sister, Amani Destuche, or Kim, is Armando Baptista's wife. And then you have Corey McMath up in the left corner, who was hosting, for lack of a better term, the party. It was right before his birthday. Mr. McMath calls 911, and you'll get to hear that 911 tape. You also have Aden Saeed Ali. He goes by Saeed. Mr. Ali was present at that party as well. He's going to tell you what he saw, the interaction that he saw between the victim, Mr. Knight, and Mr. Baptista. You're also going to hear, and I anticipate this testimony coming out, that Walter Stanley thinks that there's some tension. That he thinks that Muhammad is going to try and avenge some wrong that's committed against him by trying to fight Mr. Baptista, who's in the car with Mr. Elder. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what the state's position is, the reason why Demetrius Elder and Armando Baptista left that party when they did. Nothing to do with Mr. Knight leaving to go meet his girlfriend's mother at the hotel back in Hollywood, but because Walter made them think that there was an issue. Despite there being no tension, no arguments, no nothing to give rise to that, they decided it was a better idea to leave. Mr. Knight wasn't fighting that battle for Walter. He went up to have a conversation with Mr. Baptista and shake his hand. He was not the aggressor, but yet he was stabbed multiple times. He had no weapon. You're going to hear that Armando Baptista brought the weapon with him, that he carried it on his person because of his job working. So you're going to hear from the officers that were on scene. You're going to hear from Officer Yamed Yema. He's the first officer on scene, and he went and made contact with the victim. Couldn't say anything at that point. You're going to hear from Carl Spalter, who came on scene. He's actually a special victims detective, but happened to be in the area working in off-duty detail. He came in, he made contact with Corey, with Wendy. You're going to hear from Lisa Cruz and Melanie Peluso. They're the crime scene technicians with Miramar Police. They collected the physical evidence. And you're going to see that physical evidence. You're going to hear from Sergeant, now Captain Richard Georgia, who did the area canvass, who went and got surveillance footage from the next door neighbor. And ladies and gentlemen, you're going to watch that surveillance footage. At 8520 Claridge Drive, there are 3 cameras. They don't show much. But what they do show, police arriving at 9:50. They do show that there are people that leave the scene from various directions that were at this house that did not stay. They do show you there's people driving and backing up before anything happens. Your job as jurors is to weigh the credibility and the weight of the evidence and determine what it helps prove and what it helps corroborate from other individual stories. You're also going to hear from the medical examiner, Dr. Boyko. He's going to tell you about the different wounds, the depth of them, and from the information he can tell you that he gleaned from the autopsy. You're going to hear that Armando Baptista and Demetrius Elder did not stay on scene. You're going to hear that later on, police do make contact with him. And you're going to see pictures of what they looked like about 2 weeks after the incident. You're going to see the baseball cap that Armando Baptista was wearing, Boston Red Sox. You're going to see the injuries that he alleges that he had. Now, when Mr. Baptista makes contact with law enforcement, he gives a statement. In his statement, his version of events is the victim comes up, yanks the door open, and starts hitting him over the head with a beer bottle. And that he's defending himself. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence will show otherwise. Now, it would be much easier for me to send you back with my 2 boxes over there, all the evidence in the back, and let you go and make your own decision at your own time. That's not how it works. You have to sit and you have to listen, and I don't envy you that position, because there's a lot of information to take in. Ladies and gentlemen, after you've heard from all of the witnesses, the detectives, Detective Bertrand, Detective Zeller, Detective Toyota, then it is your job to determine if the state has met its burden. And now, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that's important for you to remember is those 2 elements are all the state has to prove. The victim is dead, the defendant caused death. Reasonable doubt as to the color of the car, the color of someone's shirt. That is not a reasonable doubt as to the elements. That's what we are here to focus on, is the elements. We'd be here till Christmas after next if we had to prove every person's shirt, shoe, size, and color. So, ladies and gentlemen, your job is to look at that checklist and hold the state to our burden. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.